Hey guys, my name is Akash Kakumani. I'm a brother at Alpha Kappa Psi, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a simple iPhone app, a tipping calculator. So as you can see here, this is my repo, and before we get started, you might want to download Xcode 7.2.1, the most recent version. This app is going to be written in Objective-C, and the reason why I'm doing that is because Objective-C has been used for many years before Swift, and that's why I like to use something more familiar with the community, so that way I have better documentation and more resources to use with it. Maybe when Swift matures as a language, I will definitely switch, but as for right now, I prefer Objective-C. So this is the app you're going to be creating. So if we click any total, $100 bill, you can tip 12%, 15%, 18%, and 20%. And if you enter a non-value, you should get an error like that. So without further ado, let's get into it from scratch. So we're going to close Xcode and open it up again. And then we're going to create a new project. Okay, so here we have a few options: a master detail application, a page-based application, a single view application, and we're going to use a single view application because our app is relatively simple, so we don't need too much. Okay, so we're going to start by pressing next, and our product name is going to be tipping calculator. I'm going to write 2 so I don't overwrite my previous directory. We're going to leave the language to Objective-C. But you can change it to Swift, as you can see there. We're going to leave it at iPhone, and we don't need any of these 3 options, so you make sure to uncheck them. Those are more advanced. Next. So we're going to create this. Awesome. So as you can see, there's a lot of intimidating files and code in them, but don't worry about it. We're going to get into it in just a second. So this is the app delegate file, H and M. All right, so there's a header file and then an implementation file. So the header file is all the properties that the implementation wants, and you can make these public properties or private properties, meaning that only an app delegate can use them, so view controller couldn't use them. Anyways, without getting too much into it, app delegate is right here. It contains your app startup code and responds to state changes, so if someone closed your app or started your app. And it handles push notifications, and it's pretty useful for also core data, which is one of the things we did not check to make this app. But those are all unneeded for our application, so it's slightly more out of the scope of this tutorial. So we're going to go into our view controller H and M. So this is our header file and M file. So this is how we're going to manipulate our view, and I'm going to show you what our view is in the main storyboard. So this is a nice little interface. First of all, I'm going to change it to 6. So you can change what type of simulator you want to run your code on. Anyways, so this is the view controller. So this is our view. So let's go ahead and put a label here. Hello world. Okay, awesome. Nice and centered. So you just press play up here to start it. You can also use Apple R. And perfect. We see our hello world. However, it's not centered. And to handle centering it, there are a few ways to do it. What I like to do is turn off auto layout and fix it. I recommend learning how to use auto layout because it's a powerful tool, but I like having a little bit more control and customizability, so I turn off auto layout so I can change how things look via code. So you just disable size classes here. The way I did that was clicking on the view controller up here in your inspector pane and clicking on view controller, and then going over here and unchecking auto layout. Okay, so now auto layout's off, and we want to reference to this, whatever this label is, right? Because how else are we going to tell the code to make it center? So we're going to go to our view controller. Oh, 1 second. A little lag. Go to viewcontroller.h, and we're going to use control. You're going to press control on your keyboard and click and drag in. And this is the H file, and you'll see some blue lines here, and then you're just going to let go. And then we want an outlet, which basically means I want a reference to whatever object this is, and we want a name. So for our name, we're going to name it total label. Okay, just leave that. And now let's try centering it. We have our view did load here. I like to manage my views in view will layout subviews. This is the correct place to place that. If you're doing any additional setup besides laying out subviews, then you might want to handle that in view did load, but we're just going to handle it here. Also, we're going to add in some nslog statements. Nslog basically means it's going to print on the bottom right. It'll open up a window. You'll see it later. So you just type in nslog like this, and then have a semicolon at the end to show that you're done making a statement. So entered layout subviews. Now, let's make self, a reference to self, view controller, and let's get that property, total label. And let's make it center is equal to self.view, view.center. Okay, so what I'm basically doing here is saying, hey, what's this view? This whole thing right here. And let's get the center of that, which is right over here somewhere, right around here. And let's assign this center to this center. And that should just work as we expect. Hello world, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit faster now, but I'm gonna move this to the center and just out of our way. So let's add a few more things that we would need. Let's get our input label. So for that, you want a text field, and just put that up here, and make that side right here, and right here. Let's go ahead and also add a placeholder in the attributes right over here. And you want to put input cost. And then let's center that text. Let's also center this text. And let's also make this bigger. Awesome. Let's also change this to 0 to start out with, and change the background. And then let's increase the text size so it's nice and visible. Make it 30. Okay. And now we need some buttons. As you saw in the implementation, we want to add some buttons. So let's add 4 buttons to represent each of our emojis that we're going to click on. Okay. And then so now you might want to drag in your picture file. So I have my pictures right here, so I'm just going to drag those in. Awesome. And then I'm going to copy items if needed and create groups and make a target of tipping calculator too. Finish. Okay. So now my pictures are in here. So looking at my pictures, I want the devil to be the very left one, devil, and then I want this to be happy, I want this to be indifferent, and I want this to be money. Now let's make these smaller. You want to go to the size, I forgot the exact name, size inspector, there you go. And then you want to make each of these 50-50. You can also handle this in code. 50, 50. Where are we here? 50, 50, 50, 50. Okay. So obviously these aren't perfectly centered, but if I show you how it runs, you're going to clearly see that everything's off slightly. Okay, so this obviously isn't centered and this isn't centered. So let's go ahead and fix that. So in our in our main storyboard, we want to make the references first, of course. So we want to open up viewcontroller.h. Oh, and as you can see, we have our print statements here from the previous run that I just did. So, but we'll get into that later. And then let's make a reference here. Text input field. Okay. Also, don't worry about weak and non-atomic. Weak basically means how long it's retained in memory, and non-atomic means it's whether it's thread safe or not. Those are really advanced topics in computer science that you probably don't need to know right now. So, but this is how you declare an IB outlet. IB outlet means it's in the storyboard, and you want to add a property to show that this is a property that you want people to be, the view controller to use. So let's just call this image1, image2, image3, image4. Now we also want to add responses to when someone clicks on it. So let's also add that in. So instead of doing outlets, do an action. So don't worry about a lot of these fields, but just remember that touch up inside is clicking on the center of the field. ID is what you want to receive, and arguments are so you can have sender an event, in which case you would get that this button is clicking it, or you can just get sender, which means who's clicking it. But this isn't useful for our purposes. So let's say devil clicked, and I'm naming these methods. Methods are things that you can invoke to make some certain code happen that is up to your discretion. Happy clicked. Ooh, I accidentally made it an IB outlet. Happy clicked. And def clicked. Action. Connect. And I also noticed that I switched happy and indifferent. We can go ahead and change that too. And then money clicked. Make that an action. So this code is going to crash right now. That's because I accidentally made an IB outlet when I shouldn't have, because I wanted to make an action. And I just deleted the code without resolving it. So as you can see, we get a crash. So let's go ahead and stop that. And the way you fix that is going to the view controller, go to the outlets inspector. And you see this exclamation mark? It's basically saying that it can't find the outlet named happy clicked. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And we can see that image 2 and 3 are mixed up. So let's go ahead and get rid of image 2 and 3. And then let's switch them around. We'd also switch them up in code, but it's just going to be confusing. So let's do the image 2. Image 3. So now we're all set. Should be at least. Let's check this to see if we have any other errors. Nope, all set. Okay. So let's go into view controller. I'm going and saving the files that are grayed on the side. So that's why I click on all those files. So let's go into here. And as you can see, the methods that we created in the .h file transferred to the .m file. But we'll fix those methods later. So now let's center things out. So let's center the input label. What did I call it? Input field. Sorry. So input field. Now we want the center slightly above the center of the total label. So to do that, we want a CG point make, because center is a CG point, and to create a CG point, we use CG point make, which is a method that will return a CG point object. So we want it to self.view.center.x. So it's centered, but we also want it a little bit above. Self.view.center.y minus 150. Okay. And now we want to evenly space out those buttons. So how would we do that? So we have 4 buttons, and to evenly space them, we want to divide the view controller in fifths and place each button on every 5th line, 1/5 line. So to split it up like that, we're gonna have to get some metrics. So let's go and create first of all the bottom. Float bottom is equal to self.view.frame.size.height. So now we're getting the entire height of the whatever the height is represented in pixels is now assigned to bottom. A word called bottom that we can, a variable called bottom that we can use later on.